Meatball George, how are you today?
Hello, brother Meatball John. How are you?
I'm very full. I had a big burrito and a taco, and I'm very full. So don't move me around too much.
Okay,
So listen, there's a lot happened this week to talk about.
man, there's a ton.
Hmm.
What we you want to? We could talk about recapping what happened in the Green Bay game. We could talk about the um, what do you call it? Trade deadline. We could talk about the new game coming up. I don't know if we'll get it all done in one, but wherever
Okay.
you want to start, we'll do it.
You know what? Let's do the Green Bay recap that we didn't do. Like we actually were talking about, we were about to get together on Monday, and we were like, well, let's hold off because they might make a trade.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and do our recap, and then we'll take it from
All
there. What are your
right.
thoughts after watching a 10-point victory
Right.
against the Packers? What are your thoughts?
I thought that the Bills finally found how to run the ball, even though if you look at their yardage, it seems like isn't that a lot. Well, because they ran in the first half and they decided not to run much in the second half, but they were running the ball. Singletary did a good job, and Josh was doing a decent job, although I seen him make some bad decisions again this week. And the Packers, I think, just got under the skin of the Bills. And the Packers defensive backs were getting under the skin of Stefon Diggs, Gabe Davis, and even Josh Allen to the point where I think it threw them off their game.
Okay.
Now, I think on the defensive side of the ball, we were playing a good game, and then all of a sudden they were able to run like crazy on us. Well, I heard it from Von Miller, and then I watched an interview with Leslie Frazier, and the Bills defense made a decision that they assumed that the Packers were going to start trying to pass the ball because they were down by so much. But they never did. They just started to run the ball. Where our front four and our two linebackers were uh, playing the pass, the Packers were actually running. And they're trying to justify themselves now, Leslie Frazier and the other Bills. They're trying to justify it as like, listen, the only thing we care about is points. We don't care about giving up yardage. So I think that was an excuse to cover their butts because they made a bad decision. And instead of playing the Packers straight up, the Bills decided that they knew what the Packers were going to do. And the Packers just played them for fools. Now, it didn't come down to too close a game. I think they maybe got within one score for a while, or about to get into one down to one score. So it could have been a dangerous situation, but it wasn't. And the Bills won the game, but they almost shot themselves in the foot, John, on both sides of the ball. And they won by 10 points, which is, I think, what I predicted. I said 24-14. They won 27-17, but in a different fashion than I anticipated. The Bills defense played a run pass while the Packers were running. It's crazy. And they never adjusted to it. They made a decision. We don't care. We're just going to keep rushing the passer, even though he was never passing. And the Bills on the offensive side of the ball, they just got flustered. They got played by the Packers defensive backs. And I know Diggs said, well, I won because we won the game. And the Packers defensive back said, forget it, I won. I got under his skin. And I think that's a cautionary tale for the tale for the Bills going forward is play the game, not play the game for what's really happening and adjust to conditions and scenarios that are going on live, and stop thinking you're smarter than everybody else. Don't let it go to your head. Just go out and do your job. That's my take on it.
All right.
I'm glad they won. But I think they got their feathers ruffled.
All right. So Stephon Diggs finished with 6 receptions, 108 yards, and a touchdown. That he won. He did fine. I know that there was I forgot the defensive back's name that was guarding him, but Stephon beat his ass.
Yeah.
But
he didn't get 10 receptions. He didn't get 2 touchdowns. He
Yeah.
didn't play what we expected the Bills to be doing. They didn't even score in the second half, did they? Maybe 3 points, the Bills?
Aaron Jones. Yeah, I think they got 10. Aaron Jones for the Packers. 20 carries, 143 yards.
That's huge.
Yes. That's significant. Now,
7 yards a carry, right?
it's correct me if I'm wrong, but in watching that game, I felt like it was the first time this year we really saw the Bills defense get gashed in the running game. I think Miami ran the ball pretty well, but Green Bay really gashed them.
Right.
That same reasonably okay. So we'll have to see if this was what you were talking about, kind of game strategy, game plan. The Packers chose an actual game plan, a little different than what the Bills were expecting. And
Yes.
like you said, we never really seemed to make any adjustment for it. So it was a winning plan. It just was a surprising plan so we'll have to see if that continues.
Yeah, I think, John, if they do that kind of stuff and get that flustered in a playoff game against a team like Kansas City, the Bills could be in big trouble. And fortunately, it happened against a crippled Green Bay team.
Right.
So we were fortunate when it happened and by who it happened. But if that kind of stuff happens in the playoffs, you're asking for trouble. So I think it's a good learning.
Could be.
This was a good learning situation for them.
Could be. This was so. I heard a guy say, like, what kind of world do we live in where the Green Bay Packers lose to the Bills by 10 points
Mhm.
and Packer fans feel like their team played pretty good? This is they only lost by 10 to the Buffalo Bills. That's fantastic. They're really shaping up. They're trying to get their identity.
During our so-called Buffalo Bill drought, which went on for decades, by the way, we had a lot of those that if we would have only lost to the New England Patriots by 10 points, we would have had a parade. We only lost by 10. Do we have a parade? So I totally understand how the Packers feel. But I think if they played again, I don't think they lose by 10. I think the Bills put them away and end it. Yeah.
I don't remember what number Super Bowl it was, but the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Now I know they've done it twice.
The one with Michael Strahan.
Yeah, a couple of 3/4 of the way through the season, the Giants played the Patriots in a regular season matchup, and they lost.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And when the Super Bowl was over, some of the Giant players were saying, when we played them in the regular season, we lost that game. But we played them tough, and it was a close game, and we realized that we could play with the best.
Mm-hmm.
And it really turned our season around. It gave us, oddly, that loss gave us confidence moving forward, because we were like, if we could play them that well, we should be able to beat some other teams. We could end up with a good record here, and they did. They made the playoffs, and they ended up winning a Super Bowl out of it. This might have been the Super Bowl where the guy caught the ball on his helmet.
Yes, right.
And it might have been that one. So I don't think that Green Bay is going to turn their season around with this, but that was the kind of emotions that I hear from Packer fans, which is, this is the quarterback that was MVP of the league last year. going into the playoffs last year, they were, I think, the favorite to win the NFC Championship.
Right.
And now they came into this game 3-4. They lost by 10, and they're excited.
They came in 3-4, went out 3-5.
Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about and I understand what you're saying, I think you got a pretty good take there. But when you look at that Giants team and you look at this Green Bay team, there's absolutely no way that this can turn around their season. You'd think they're going to go out now and beat the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. And I think if they played the Bills again, the Bills would be ready. They'd be calm. They'd stick to their game plan. They'd adjust when necessary. And I think they'd hang 40 points on the Packers. So I don't think that I think this was something that happened, and it shows a lot of the youth on our side of the ball, and we'll just see, and some cockiness on the side of the defense saying, well, we don't care if they run. They're not going to score enough. Let them run. Who cares? We'll keep them from passing. I think that was kind of a kooky way to play a defense, to say, just let them keep running because they'll run out of time. I never heard that kind of a defensive strategy before. Have you? Let them just run the ball, not when you're in the third quarter, in the last 4 minutes. Yeah. But not in the third quarter.
Yeah. I heard an analyst talking. You talked about the Packers getting under some of the Bills players' skin.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed a tape of Stephon Diggs getting up after a play and just getting in, I don't remember the defensive back's face.
Mm-hmm.
The next play, those two are lined up against each other again. Allen goes to him, and that's once Diggs got his touchdown.
Yeah.
This guy's point was, Diggs wasn't the X receiver on that route, on that call.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks Allen went to him to help him show this guy up.
Yeah.
This is his route. He's going to run it. He got it. And he thinks Allen was going to him at the snap because he saw those two getting in each other's face. And he was,
and this was like,
guy's back.
Diggs was running down the right sideline. Mm-hmm. And he threw it over a guy's head and into Diggs' arms, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And if you remember, if you would have looked on the left side of the screen, Shakir was wide open.
Okay. So that's what the guy's trying to say. He's like, he's got Diggs' back here. He's going to Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to help Diggs show this guy up right now. And I don't know, maybe that might have been an example of this guy was complimenting Allen, saying, hey, he's got his best guy's back. But that might have been an example of what you were saying, that they made decisions in that game. The players made some. Allen made some.
The players. The tail was wagging the dog. The prisoners were running. The inmates were running to prison, and you can't lose control of your players. And I think that is what happened on that field on Sunday. I really do.
I will say, I don't know if I'll give credit or what, but Green Bay's players all got under theirs. I don't know if it was intentional, if it just also our guys got under their skin. And it was Green Bay that suffered with the personal foul, hit out of bounds. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they have a guy get thrown out. Mm-hmm. From a penalty standpoint, they're the ones who look a bit more undisciplined because there were quite a bit few more penalties on Green Bay, and they happened at times when it really hurt their team.
Yeah,
when they still had a chance. And then in the second half they're trying to make a comeback, and they're still undisciplined.
Yeah, I just think this is a situation where it's time for the coaches to tell the Bills players, grow up. We understand they bugged you. This game is not personal. It's business. Go out and do your job. They can't beat you. Don't worry about what they say to you, what they're chipping and chattering and all of that kind of stuff. Just go play the game. And when the Packers limp home on the plane to Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is a shithole on the armpit of North America.
Now you can say that with experience. You
I
lived
said
there.
it with experience. And when they got to get on that plane and they lost 40-10 or 40-3, let them go chat to each other. And we didn't let that happen. We got riled up. We got undisciplined. And I just don't think that's going to happen again, or at least it better not happen again during a playoff game, because then we could be in trouble against some really good teams.
So you mentioned,
So I'm yeah, go ahead.
well, you mentioned playoffs, and
Playoffs.
I think it's not uncommon for playoff football to have even higher level of intensity.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a team goes to play the Bills are the favorite in the AFC. When a team goes to play the Bills, they may bring a little bit more intensity because they know they're playing against a team that's highly favored, and they know they're playing against a team that is considered to be pretty good, even though they haven't won a championship. But when a team plays them now, they kind of do get up for it. And the Bills are going to have to match that intensity. I'm with you. They got to match that intensity, but matching that intensity does not mean you have to be open to, and they're going to hear it. Like, guys like to talk in this league.
John, what was the game where Josh Allen got the personal foul, roughing the other player, and it turns out the other player was
The Miami
him in the groin. He was squeezing his groin there, and Josh Allen got so upset and so irate that he ended up making a personal foul.
Yeah.
And so I think that they kind of got the Bills' number a little bit, and they're going to come after the Bills to be very physical. They're going to, try and get away from some digs and jabs and kicks. And look at the game the other day. They didn't call it, but Josh Allen went to run, and that guy, Packer, tripped him. He stuck his leg out there and tripped him. Do you remember that play?
Mm-hmm. The defensive
Josh Allen
is getting blocked.
He's looking at the ref when he tripped me, and they didn't call it.
No,
so these players are definitely trying to get under his skin, rattle him, because they know he can be rattled, and so can Diggs. And they're trying to rattle him, get him off their game, get him unfocused, undisciplined, and make them take themselves out of the game. Make them lose focus. Josh ended up 2 interceptions. You look at the numbers, Aaron Rodgers had just as good a day as Josh Allen did, if not better.
Yeah, the second half, he completed some nice passes there.
Yes.
That is the fact that they were able to run successfully. They had a good running game. And in the second half, his receivers were catching some passes for him.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand why the Packer faithful, I don't think they've been seeing that in all their games this year. And so they might be feeling that maybe their team is starting to put some stuff together. Maybe things that they're working on are starting to pay off. So that's great for them. I don't expect that we're going to see the Packers again this year. Hence, I don't think they're going to be in the Super Bowl. So hopefully they'll improve for next year or whatever.
They didn't make a move during the trade deadline, so they didn't do anything that's going to help Aaron Rodgers out. If you look back, the Bills were fine.
Talked about the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was yesterday or today. It came out that they were in the bidding war for Claypool.
Mm-hmm. Well, they should have been.
Yeah, but they got outbid. It was one of those deals. It turns out, if you heard, Claypool's got they give up like a 5th round pick now and a conditional 2nd round pick in the future.
Uh-huh.
But the conditional part there's a bunch of stipulations in there, like if they sign him to an extension. there's some interesting stipulations in that deal. And whatever, the Packers just weren't able to meet all of the whatever. So the potentially, like they would have given up a 5th round pick, but maybe not all the additional stuff or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Green Bay is an odd duck in that it's the city owns a team,
right.
and there's people that have shares in it, and this kind of stuff. And so they are just not going to go out and make that kind of big splash play. And if you want to come and play for the Packers, you know, they're thinking Bart Starr's Packers, then, you know, you're going to agree to live in this tiny little dinky place and freeze in the winter, and your pipes freeze, you can't even shave. And then, you know, you're going to get paid okay for a football player. And
Well, look, like,
it's not a great place to they're not going to compete with the Los Angeles Rams, or they're not going to compete with the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to the sticker price on a player. They're just not.
all right. Anything else? So let's go ahead and we'll have another video here where we'll talk about the other developments of this week.
Yeah, I got a short ad on this.
Yeah, please.
You know, the Bills coming into this were 5-0 after the bye week with their current coaching staff.
Mm.
But if you go back and you look at some of those games or some of those records, the Bills struggled in many of those. They come out flat after the bye week. They don't come out, you know, like a lot of teams are rested and they take extra time and they prepare for the other team. But the Bills seem to come out flat. And I think they did again. But the difference between this year and last year is this is a time of the year when the Bills started to go on the losing streak. And they're playing teams like Jacksonville and losing. And, you know, they lost to Kansas City. They lost to Tennessee. And you don't see that this year. They're finding ways to win. And I got to give them credit. As much as they were undisciplined and unruly in this game, they found a way to win. And you got to give them a lot of credit. And it's things that they can fix going into the next week. It's not like we found a flaw in the Bills all of a sudden that you can run on the Bills. I don't think that's true. I just think that they weren't prepared for what the Packers threw at them. And I do think they're going to be prepared for what the Jets bring. And I think the Bills will continue to win games and find ways to win in a tough situation.
All right.
Okay.
That's a good note. We'll call this. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. Let us know. Maybe make a note in the comments. Yeah, thumbs up. Look for a follow-up video where we'll do our preview of the Jet game and also talk about some of the developments, the trades and stuff that happened this week.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Go Bills.
Go Bills.